Hello, Christine. Good afternoon. How are you?
Hello, how are you? I am really good. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so
I
much.
know it's been a long time coming, and this is my first video.
This is your first video
It
podcast?
is. It is.
Your
It
video
is
cast, your first
my
video cast.
first video
I
cast. So
love it,
this is a
Sherisse.
huge deal for me. And so, I think a little bit of okay. I don't even know where to begin. So maybe what I will start with is a little bit of backstory on how I met you. You and I met through Ranchelle Van Bryce, and it was Ranchelle and I we were chatting right before a podcast I did with her, and she was telling me about her decision to move to Inspired Choices Network. And you know how ideas are, right? There was this little thing niggling in the back of my head that was like, you should do video. You should do video. And I was like, Ranchelle, what was the name of that network that you were telling me about? And can you put me in contact? And you
Here
entered
we
my
go.
life at that point.
That's
And
right.
so please tell us about yourself. You have many hats that you wear. So share with the audience who you
So
are, what
this
you
is my
do.
challenge. Is how do I make it concise, and that's a bit of a challenge. But I'll give you as quick story as I can. I started in human resources, and really tough industry. People don't realize it's very tough. I had a mental breakdown, and during my time in healing, I really looked at what I wanted to do. And what I loved about human resources was connecting with people and supporting them, and I could see where they could go. I could hear their dreams and I could see how they could get there. A few months later, I started my own business, took a professional coaching training. Throughout coaching people personally, a lot of people started to say, I'd like to start my own business. And I'm like, well, I did that. I can help you with that. Hence, my business coaching started to evolve. I did a ton of business before I was in human resources. So this was kind of real natural for me. 2 years into my coaching, I was approached by a company and they asked me if I'd ever thought about having a radio show. My whole body lit up. You know, those moments that you
Yes.
have where it's like the universe, God is saying to you, listen,
Yeah.
you need to listen. So I said, yes. Actually, I couldn't not say yes. It was one of those striking moments. I get on to do my first show and I am so over the moon excited and grateful and nervous as can be that I cried for the first 15 minutes of my show. Cried. Nobody has done as terrible a job as starting out as me. And I also have this thing where if I've said I'm going to do something, I'm going to continue to do it. So I got off that show and I'm like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to continue, but I am going to continue. And that was in 2011. So I've been doing my own show ever since then, and was 3 years into that, the platform that I was on, the owner asked if I'd ever thought about producing. And I was at one of those moments in my life where it was, okay, take this opportunity on, because my ego didn't want to. My ego was like, you're a business coach. What are you doing? And this is not something you do. And she was very loud. And it was do this or go get a job at, McDonald's. So I'm like, I'm going to give this a try first
Mhm.
before I go put on my outfit at McDonald's. And 6 months later, I was the least owner of that platform. It was really a niche for me to step into that I didn't know, but it brought back, Sherisse, that whole thing about I could see people's dreams and I could show them how to get there.
Mhm.
And hence my production hat came into play. A couple years after that, my business wanted me to start my own platform. So I talk to my business. I teach people how to talk to their businesses. I launched the Inspired Choices Network. And so over time we've evolved. So it's a live radio streaming platform. And then we also have the video. So we turn that into TV, and then we turn the audio into podcast, and we mass distribute that to over 350 platforms. 2 years later, Ranchelle Van Bryce as well was hosting a summit and asked me to be a speaker on the summit. In the midst of this, the production company they had really dropped all the balls, and she hollered, I need your help. I jumped in technically to help with a bunch of the things so it could continue to go off smoothly. Post-production, she said, you'd be really great at doing summits. And I'm like, what? I sat with that like you do, I know. I sat with that for about 6 months. I really needed to be with
Wow.
it. I wanted it to be different. And so I came from the perspective of how can this be a benefit? How can it be honoring of the hosts, honoring of the speakers, and honoring of the participants? I wanted to do it differently. So then we launched Summits. That was 2 years ago.
Oh, you guys have known each other that long.
Yes,
Okay. I
yes,
didn't
yes.
know.
I
Okay.
can't even tell you now how long it is.
Yeah.
And then 6 months after we launched the summits, no, it wasn't 6 months. It was probably 2 months after we launched the summits. We then wanted to look at how could we also turn what we do into the publication industry. And so then we launched ICN Publishing. So
Okay.
we take everybody that's in a summit, we turn all of their talks into a chapter into an anthology book. And we also work with people one-on-one for their books. So we're bringing people's messages to people in the way that they like to consume the content.
Right.
So some people like to listen, some people like to watch, and some people like to read. And so now we fulfill all of those. I'm thrilled because the biggest thing that I love to do is to see the brilliance in someone and to really get their message out to the people that are looking for it. Because you can be brilliant, but if you're sitting in your house talking to yourself, what are you doing with that brilliance? And so I nudge people and I encourage
Okay.
them. And
Stop. I'm going
sometimes
to pause you. It is not.
I was just going to add, and
Don't
sometimes I kick.
deceive the people.
Okay, it's truth be told, I'm Irish background and I don't hold back. Okay,
Thank you.
there you go.
I love that because that's absolutely what our experience has been like, right? You and I have been talking, we're in Feb and I think we started talking in about June, July of last year.
Yeah, it's definitely,
been a while.
we're definitely past our 6-month anniversary.
Yeah, we are. But it's been one of those things that I'm really glad that you have continued to just gently poke me every now and again.
Yeah.
And this is the result is here we are on
I'm
video.
so excited for you.
Right? Yeah. So thank you for that. I'm curious, when you were in HR, just to go all the way back to the very beginning, what was the biggest challenge?
Oh my gosh. The biggest challenge was marrying my heart with what I knew people needed, both management and the staff, with the expectations that were being pushed on the department. And the biggest piece was HR is not a revenue generating department. And the value, when I first started, and I'm going to age myself and whatever, but when I first started, when I came out of college, it was called the personnel department. It wasn't called human resources. And it was hiring and doing the paperwork on hiring people and doing the paperwork on firing people. That was as much involvement that we had. Then we kind of started to do the benefits and so on. HR had evolved to, when I had my last position, to the point where we were buried in work and buried in expectations. So as organizations and countries have ever evolving human ethics, health and safety regulations, and so on, all of this gets put on HR and nothing gets taken off. So it was managing. Yes, I understand that these regulations are important and I agree with them. It was managing, trying to fulfill all those needs we're missing the human in human resources.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of human resources people who have left the profession, who have had severe breakdowns, severe burnout. And so for me, it was a gift. When I honestly had that breakdown, it was a gift. I got out of that organization within just a few months later. For the most part, it imploded. And so I was able to get out and take care of me and move in the direction of where I needed to be.
The only reason I asked is because, a lot of the work that I do with Watt is it's so much human resource
Mhm.
management on a daily basis. And I know over the last year, I would say, I was reaching out to people everywhere. Like, are you experiencing this? Are you experiencing this? Are you going through this? Is it just me? Or, because of these challenges and always coming into the office every day, really trying to show up as my very best self and give people the very best parts and learning how to balance organizational needs with the humanness of, compassion and empathy and all of these things and really struggling with it.
Yeah.
So that's why my idea, which we won't talk about here
Yet.
yet, but I'm really excited about it because I think it'll be a way to really help maybe bridge that gap a little bit more because I was trying to do, I think, what you're talking about, right? How do I inspire people to not just look at this as somewhere to come and make a paycheck, but really find that fire in your belly and bring the best version of yourself every single day. So thank you for sharing that. I always thought I was just the only one.
Oh my gosh, no, it's everywhere. It's in all organizations, and human resources is expected to hold the people up, have the organization's needs met, and also have the legal in their head at the same time and balance those two. And I think it's an unfair expectation, and I ultimately, in most organizations, ultimately the organization outweighs the human needs because of bottom line.
Yeah.
And it's very short-sighted. It's very short-sighted because when we burn the people, we burn the company.
100%. And it's often something that I've said within our own organization that our people can make or break the organization.
Yes.
So we got to figure out, and it's laughable, but at the same time, I'm dead serious when I say it until AI gets to a place where it can, which is kind of a scary place. And I was giving my kids an example not that long ago where I was talking about something about, actually, I was talking about when ABMs use first came out. And the example that I was giving was like people need to be able to see, how do we wrap our arms around technology? And that's a question that I'm going to ask you here in a moment so that we can learn how to use technology to help us with those very monotonous and mundane tasks so we can free up time for people to like really bring the things that inspire them. And so the example I had given him, my son, was that when bank machines first came out, my dad would go to the bank and he'd walk up to the teller to pay his bill.
Mm-hmm.
And the teller would be like, "No, sir, we've got these beautiful new machines now where you don't even need to come in and see me." And my dad looked at this lady. He was like, "Lady, do you know you were encouraging me to put you out of a job?
Good for him.
Because if I just go use that machine, then why does the bank need you?" And fast forward all these years later, and now there are branches that you go into where there's one person and it's a virtual banking center kind of thing, right? So then the point that I'm trying to drive at, or the question I would pose to you is how do you see, uh, you know, the rapidly evolving environment of AI and continued innovation and how it works with human resources moving forward? And especially given some of the challenges with current human resource needs where folks don't want to come in, they want to work remote, they want to make six figures, all this other kind of stuff. How do you see that impacting?
So I'm going to give an example. If I never wash a dish in my life, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally good. I have a dishwasher. I put everything in the dishwasher I possibly can.
Yeah, me too.
There are people who raised families on a dishwasher salary. Not a robust salary, but yet a dishwasher salary. Evolution is always going to continue. Our responsibility as, let's talk about as a creator, as a business owner, and as someone who supports other people in the world is to know where that begins and where that ends. One of the biggest struggles that I have with AI, and I'm still learning, I am still learning and I am still balancing it in my mind, is how much do we rely upon that as a support tool, like a dishwasher,
Mm-hmm.
And how much are we farming it out and it's going to be cookie cutter? When, right? I have hosts that come on the network and I've seen this. They go out and they use an AI tool to create, maybe come up with some titles, maybe come up with some ideas to speak to. If those ideas are not something that they would be like, oh yeah, of course I do that. And I've done this and I can totally speak to that. And they use it as a bullet point example. They cannot sustain that knowledge in their speaking.
Yep. True.
So it becomes a space where you're no longer a creator. You're a puppet. What's the bird that just repeats everything? Sorry,
Parrot.
A parrot. You're a parrot. You're parroting AI. You are not actually a creator. You're not tapping into your genius. One of the things, and I know I shared this with you, one of the reasons I love that our shows are live is because the speaker, the host cannot go back and edit the content. And what that does is it holds them accountable to really, really show up and expand their capacity for speaking and tap into their gold, to tap into their brilliance. And so when we are forced to show up, the best of us shows up, the best and the best. And it, beyond our doubt, beyond our insecurities, it really challenges us. And I have watched with such mother love parenting, watch these hosts evolve into such their deepest brilliance because they allowed themselves to be challenged. So when we look at the human resource in an organization, we've really got to come back to values, and we've got to look at start from the employer, the owner, down through the management. What is it that you want to be known for, and what do you value? What's important to you? If money is the only thing that's important to you, you're going to be out of business before you know it. I don't care. Use AI, don't use AI. That doesn't matter.
Yep.
We've got to bring our values into this. And we've got to really look at where are the limitations in AI, in technology, and where does the human come into play with their greatest capacity?
And I agree with you. I encourage people in our office or in our company to use it. It's a tool. Why not use it? And I've definitely consumed some other content that talks about, like, as we move forward, what we should be doing is exactly what you've talked about, right? Recognize it for what it is, use it for what it is. And, if we can automate some things, and again, for me, it boils down to those things that are monotonous, time consuming, prone to human error. How do we reduce that to free up what you rightfully call allowing people's genius to come through, in their workplace and really be inspired by what they're doing. So yeah, I'm always looking at ways that I can include it in the workplace.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if it can save us some time, and it also can educate us. So we can go out, as we do today. We've normalized Googling it, right? Like, that's a term that we know means go research. So of course we do research and development in our positions and research and development in our organizations. But if you're going out and you're not just using it to learn and grow yourself, but you're using it to rely upon it as the knowledge, you're going to get tripped up. You are guaranteed. So can you imagine, Sherisse, that you go out and you research a topic you wanted to talk about, and you come up with all of this knowledge, and you've memorized it, whatever the case, you got the bullet points, you're reading it, you're creating a podcast. And somebody says, wow, that chick is brilliant. Let's get her to speak at our conference where she'll be on stage in front of 20 or 20,000. You could not pull that off because that's not your genius. That's a machine's generated information. And that's where we fall short. That's where we fall short for ourselves, that we're not actually supporting ourselves with this information that we're pulling off of AI. And so we've got to see, does this make sense for me? Or do I need to go do some more training, some more learning? That's great. Absolutely use it for that. But be very careful what you put your name behind. Be very, very careful, because it can come back to bite you.
Yeah, I never thought about it quite that way or never really considered it that way, but I've definitely seen, I never put too much thought into that. Let's say it like that. I've definitely received things from people where I'm like, okay, so this was 100% generated by AI. For me, it's like a baseline tool. Let me just get some ideas flowing and
Right.
let's see what I can come with if you're having like a block of some sort. So, well, thank you for sharing your opinion on that.
Tell me, I have a question for you because that's what I do. What was your sense of that individual that sent you an email that was AI generated? Where did your value with them go?
It went down. It did.
Because
Because I was like, for what you were sending me, you didn't need to use the tool. It almost came across as just being lazy.
right, and insulting to your intelligence,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to be very careful. We need to be because we can ruin our own reputations.
100%. And I think actually I was having a conversation internally and I didn't even, I should have known this was obviously a thing, but I was having a conversation internally and part of our hiring process is, there's some assessments that need to be done, case studies, et cetera. And one of the guys was like, maybe what we're getting back has been done by AI. And so they said, we want to get the original document. Like we want to see, it was some spreadsheet work. So they were like, we want to see the formulas, like how did you do the work, right?
Right.
Back to basic
Back to
math, like
basics.
show me your work, right?
Yeah, yeah. Show
And
the
so
work.
when they got it, it was like, oh yeah, this was like 100% done by AI. I was like, oh my gosh, I just would not even never thought to like submit that. I would never have thought myself personally for a job that I was applying for to like have AI do, because it was like a financial model. I would have never even thought to do that, but
We've gotten to the point, I know this for a fact because I speak to people. We've gotten to the point where we are in such competition because
mm,
people are using AI and maybe they're smoother at delivering it so it doesn't appear to be AI. We've gotten to a point where we're nearly forcing people to do that in order to compete, to be able to get a job, to be able to pay their bills and to feed their families.
you know, could be true. And I'm not going to disagree with you there. But, our hiring model has really evolved since we've been, actively engaged in human resources. And for us, when I'm interviewing somebody, I will always say to them, and I have now learned that this doesn't work. So just like, just level with me. Can you do it or not? Right?
Yeah,
Like just
right.
to the point. And because what I'm trying to get them to understand is I don't need you to have all the knowledge. There are some other ingredients that I need that I can't teach you. And that's, desire for learning, desire for personal development, career development. They're like, there's these intrinsic values that I
Yes,
can't teach you. But the technical piece, anybody can learn that. And as long as
absolutely.
you have these core things that I can't teach you, then the rest I don't care about, right? We can
Right. It
cross
doesn't,
that.
those don't matter.
So that's why I say like, and you talk about getting back to the values. For me, that's valuable. Like these other intrinsic, non-quantifiable things that I need you to have, I will value that all day, every day. So now, even as part of the assessment, right? When I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't really need your technical knowledge to be up to snuff there. Let's,
I have a I have a program I have to share with you now that we're
yeah.
deep diving into HR. It was I hated recruiting when I first started in HR, and my boss, he was a great boss, he sent me to this training and I was like rolling my eyes. I came out of that going, "Oh my gosh." And it teaches you how to filter for their traits, which is what you're referring to, something that it's inherent in you, how to filter for their traits, and then the rest doesn't, like, it will come
Yeah,
later. And
absolutely.
it's such an amazing process that you can filter down to 9 questions that I can ask you over the phone, and I can rate you a 0, a 1, or a 2
Hmm. Please
without
share it.
with no bias. Well, of course, there's always going to be a slight bias. You can hear the person's voice. You can maybe pick up on their male or female, white or black. Like you're always going to be able to do a little bit of that, but it does take out layers of
Mm-hmm.
this. And it is fantastic. And I used it in this company and the managers fought me, fought me, fought me,
Yeah.
fought me. And I'm like, well, we're doing it. So get over it. And we did it. And it was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Because what we were really looking for was what we absolutely had to have in them, that they would be such a match for the position and the department and the organization.
Please
I
share
love it.
it.
I absolutely will share it with you.
Please share it. We are constantly recruiting, and like you, it used to be something that was very exciting for me. Like, oh, we're doing interviews. Now it's
Yeah, it's
not
tough.
not as exciting. But yeah, please do share it with me. So sorry to go down this deep rabbit hole of HR. It was just that statement you made in the very beginning, and I was just like, oh, I want to know more about that.
That's
So
okay.
thank
Hey,
you
we
for
dance
sharing. I
where we
appreciate it.
dance. It's all good.
Yes, absolutely. I wanted to pivot more to Inspired Choices, the
Okay.
network.
Okay.
And I want you to share more about what the network is, what because you spoke about a niche market. So, what is
Mhm.
it that you are bringing to the masses through Inspired Choices?
Well, Inspired Choices Network is all about bringing people's heart and soul and what really moves them to the airwaves, whether it be audio or video. We've had so many different shows over the years, and I just love to hear people's hearts. We don't have one niche where, this is the type of host that we're looking for. I definitely want to make sure that we are a match as far as values go and the direction that they want to take what they're doing and how they bring their brilliance to the world. But what we do is it's a turnkey operation, Sherisse. So for the people that are out there that they have got something on their heart that they want to share with the world, or they have a brilliance that they know they could contribute to the world, but they don't know how to do all this technology. They
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to do the marketing. They don't know how to do the mass distribution. That's what we do. I love computers. I absolutely love technology. I love systems. My brain just goes to town on that. And so everything we do, we have a system set up. So it makes it much easier and much more fun. And because I started out learning every single step.
Mm-hmm.
What we do today with somebody's show would have taken most people, it would take them probably a month with a 1 hour recording that they wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
know how to do. We simplify it down and we make the content available immediately. When someone's done their show, so let's say you and I right now, right? As soon as we're done talking, a producer would take the content and start to mass distribute it. Within 5 to 10 minutes, it would be available online everywhere. So I love that part because I know that when I'm turned on about something and I really want to talk about it, I want to get it out there. And I could never understand people that would do a recording or they would do several recordings and then it would be in a bank for months. And I'm like, how do you do that? Here's the thing to know about me. Don't put Christmas presents under the Christmas tree until Christmas Eve because I can't hold back for more than 24 hours.
Makes sense. I understand what you're saying. I mean, being the podcaster that was doing it exactly the way that you're talking about, where it's like storing all this content, being
Yeah,
like, okay, I'm gonna bring this one here, and so on and so forth. It's not readily available right away, right?
right.
So yeah.
So that's what we do and we support. Like I love to teach and guide and educate hosts that, I've had hosts come that they didn't literally did not know how to turn on their computer. And I have hosts that come in, they're very frustrated, they're overwhelmed with technology, and I try to really help them to see it's just a tool. I can teach you. If you know how to drive a car, I can teach you how to do this, no problem.
Yeah.
And we get on calls and we go through and okay, touch this and do that. And then they have a support person in all of our producers. When they come on, the producers know how to guide them. And it's really a close group that we support each other. And we know when somebody's having a bad day, how we can make them laugh or help them to move them forward. So it's really great because it allows people to show up and again, mine their gold. I did a show called Mine Your Own Gold, and we teach people how to mine their gold and we make it fun and easy and fast.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it.
I do love that. And so, I mean, I know that I'm not on the Inspired Choices Network, but you certainly gave me
Yet.
the push. Yes, yet. You certainly gave me the push that I needed in order to, because I know I had been speaking to you one day where I was just like, oh gosh, I gotta go home and I gotta edit. I was just
That's
like
a lot.
so exhausted by it, just even thinking about having to do it. But you know, for me, this was like the next obvious step was going to video. And so even though I'm not yet
Yeah.
on ICN, I have made this next step. So we'll celebrate
That's
that
great.
win.
That
Yes,
I love that.
exactly.
I love that. Well, here's the thing. Here's something to keep in mind. And I think that we fulfill a need in that 80% of podcasts that begin end before their 12th episode.
Really? So I'm really doing good.
You're really doing good. So your sustainability is high. Excellent. Your persistence is high. Excellent. And I think that there's also a big myth, and we also talked about this a bit. There's a big myth that you're going to make money from a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I know if I spoke to some of the big podcasters out there that talk about making money, I know I would be in a big fight with them. I've been doing this for 15.
Yep.
Can I swear?
Yes.
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
Stop telling people that. Stop it. It makes me, I get infuriated. Ranchelle and I have deep conversations about this.
Yeah.
It's not true. You
Yeah.
don't make money from your car
Yeah.
unless you are, driving a cab.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You don't make money from a podcast. What you do is you leverage your business with your podcast. You don't make money from a book. Over 95% of books that are out there, nobody makes money from these books.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean money. I don't mean like, hey, I made $1 off that book. You don't make money from a book, but we all know that it's like your calling card.
That's true. Yep.
And what it also does, and any author will tell you this, is that you mine your gold as you're writing your book.
Mm-hmm.
You become more professional. You become more of the brilliance that you're meant to show up in the world with. So
Yeah.
when you are doing a podcast, a video cast, a production, and you're doing a book, those come together to have you elevate as a global authority in your interest. And that's what I want to do. That's what I do. When I speak to people, I want to bring their brilliance to the world, and I know how to do it. And I know how to mine them. The biggest thing I do, and this sounds a little cheeky, is I grow hosts. I grow hosts.
Yeah.
How
You
we
know what?
do
It
it,
makes sense. Yep.
because that's what's the most important thing for me, whether it was in human resources and helping somebody step into their brilliance or really stand up and say, you know what, this is not the industry for me, or this is not the role for me. I would
Mm-hmm.
champion them. I mean,
Yep.
I've had people come in for job interviews and I would sit there and say to them, this job is not for you. But tell me about you. Let me help you to try to go in the direction of your brilliance. That's what's on my heart. And I know that we've created the organization in all the different things that we do to help people to move in that direction. That's the gifts that I bring to the world. And through those, I support other people to bring their gifts to the world.
Well, I celebrate you. You're doing a
Thank you, love.
marvelous job. I mean, here we are.
Here we
Again,
are.
a video cast.
I love it.
How many shows are you guys at now? How many?
Oh my God. We have more than 10,000 episodes on the platform. Like, we have a lot of episodes.
Wow.
And yeah, it's a lot. We have anywhere between 10 to 20 live hosts on the platform, and people will come and go. People will, take a pause or as they evolve, and then they'll come back. And yeah, we have returning hosts all of the time, and I'm thrilled about it. Same with our summits.
Yeah.
We have a group that we work with. We're just moving into their 5th summit. We did 4 last year. We're on schedule to do another 4, and a number of their speakers are repeat speakers.
Excellent.
So it's definitely what we've created is allowing people to continue to grow, and I think that's why they return again and again.
I'm curious, because part of my resistance is, what did I say to you? Do you remember my biggest resistance?
Well, I think part of it was, which is normal, your insecurities about people hearing you and you thinking you're not brilliant when you really freaking are.
Okay, she's really putting it all out there. That wasn't it.
Hey, but you did say something to that effect. You did. I remember that very carefully.
Okay, maybe I tucked that away.
Well, and you're human to have that. That's a normal response, especially when you're going to show up on video, and then we're going to put that out on 450 platforms. That's a lot.
You know what? That's fair. I think the way I would have summarized that. And I understand what you're saying, right? When you talk, pardon me, about insecurities, my biggest thing was it's live, right?
Oh,
And
right.
so, right. And what I mean, so it does tie in because when we're live, when shit happens that is unplanned, like
Yes.
unplanned, it's like something just happened and I'm not going to be able to edit it because we're live and I got to just keep going with it. Right. But that ties into the idea that we need to be perfect. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what do we do to ourselves when we have that expectation of
We really
perfection?
hold ourselves back
We
because we'll
do.
never ever get in the arena of life if we're always worried about being
I
perfect.
am telling you, the woman that you see here today is not the person that I was growing up. I believed I was stupid. I was told I was stupid. I spoke about this in a networking group yesterday that I went all the way through high school and I thought, I fooled them all. I fooled them. They don't know how stupid I am. I carried that with me for more than half of my life.
Wow.
And so that was a big, big piece for me to get over. So I know this, I can recognize this in people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I truly believe that all of us have that in some way, in some area of our life. And when you show up live and you haven't practiced speaking or you haven't, I don't know, I don't lay out my shows. I don't have them memorized and I just allow the energy to guide me and go there. And if I swear, I swear.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned about that, but I've been doing this for a long time. So of course, there is insecurities. And before I start any show, I still have a spring of nervousness will come up. And that's okay because it has me show up fully.
Well, it also lets you know you're alive and you're human. Uh,
There's that. There is that. Yeah.
Even before today, or normally what I'll do before, a podcast or said video cast is I'll put it out there. Guide me in the conversation that you want me to have today. What is the
I love
message that
that.
needs to be shared? And interestingly enough, I was doing a leadership workshop yesterday. And so in this particular type of a leadership workshop, we talk about all of the things, the limiting beliefs and the saboteurs. Yesterday we were talking about saboteurs, and I had actually never gone through the exercise of actually assessing what my saboteurs are. And yesterday
Really?
I did. Yesterday was the first time that I'd actually done it, right? I can recognize when, we'll say the common ones come out to play, like, victim or, whatever they are, inner child, so on and so forth. But this was, I can't even remember what, pardon me, the institute is called. But anyways, my top two were the avoider and the pleaser.
Yeah.
And so of course, one of the questions in our breakout rooms was like, okay, exactly what you just said. What happens when we allow your saboteur to come out and play? And I said, well, obviously I don't show up because I'm avoiding so many different scenarios. And I've never really considered myself to be a conflict adverse person. I feel like I can navigate conflict very well, but I'm always worried. So here's where the people pleaser comes in. I'm always worried about hurting the other person's feelings, that they're going to misunderstand what I'm saying, because that often happens where I'm speaking my mind, I'm saying something, and people just totally take it in another direction. But then I realized if I know genuinely where my intention is coming from, and I know that it's heart centered and really with so much unconditional love for the other person, how they receive that is based on their lens, their story, their own limiting beliefs. And I'm not really responsible for that, especially if I know how I'm delivering it. I'm so mindful of how I'm delivering it. So it was just such a great exercise to do yesterday.
That's
So
cool.
now when I have these moments, my task for myself now for the next week or two is whenever I feel the pleaser or the avoider coming out to play, I'm going to challenge it and I'm going
Good.
to do the exact opposite.
And if I can add, you are underestimating their ability to receive when you're worried about them. When we worry about somebody else, we believe that they have something to be worried about. And that is selling who they are,
Mm-hmm.
right? People are more brilliant than we give people credit for. And it's our own insecurities of something that's happened in the past that has planted that. Let it
Yep.
go, girl. Like
It's
you've
very
got
true.
brilliance to bring to the world. Come on, let's go.
I'm here. I'm bringing it.
I love it. I love it.
With your, okay, so I think what I was asking was biggest challenge with the live environment. Any other big challenges with the live environment?
Well, I mean, technology
Yeah.
can always be that, but I can tell you honestly, in all the years, I was actually saying this just the other day. I think we had 2 days where we were like, "Guys, sorry, we can't go live today.
Mm,
There's a technology issue. We just can't." I mean, people will, they'll have power outages on their end, and so they can't go live. For our, we had a power outage. When was that? It was 2022. Remember when there was a huge power outage across Canada and a big, big one in Ontario? It
mm-hmm.
was August, July. It was July of 2022 because it was the day of my mother's wake. You know how you have these things?
Yes.
And I'm going to leave and leave the team in charge. And there was a massive problem. Like everything was out. So we've only ever had that twice, but a lot of people worry about that. So, we do all that we can to support people to avoid these issues and how they can do that and so on and so forth. But that, for the most part, is the biggest piece. If you can get over looking at yourself on video, and knowing that people can hear you live, and it takes a minute. It does. Like, look at my first one, right? And my first one was live. It wasn't on video though. They didn't have it back then. That's the biggest piece. And I think also trying to reason why doing that with the is it going to make me money? Those are probably the two biggest things. And I speak to that, as you know, I speak
Yes.
directly to that because I don't want to see someone go into something with a false belief. And unfortunately, there's too many people out there trying to make a buck and trying to tell you should be able to make money out of the gate with your podcast. That is just not true.
Yeah. I'm glad that that's not my reason for doing this. This is not my day job.
Yeah, that's good.
Something else that just to ride on something you just said, something that one of my coaches had said, just kind of about, you were talking about your first podcast and, it's not perfect or whatever. And she'd said, sometimes people, not sometimes, but she's like, why don't you step into the awareness that there's something really really beautiful in watching somebody evolve, like actually watch the
Right.
whole evolution from this is where I started to however many years down the road. And even just you saying today that, what is it, 80-90% of podcasts
80.
don't last after the 12th episode.
Yes.
I'm going to celebrate that because
Yeah.
that's huge because
But
you're,
for the most part, it's not that they can't show up and talk.
yeah, it's all the other stuff.
It's all the other stuff because it's kind of like saying, "Hey, I don't really need a mechanic. I can learn how to change the motor in my car."
Yeah.
So you're changing the motor in your car every
No, I'm
time you're
not.
doing.
Yeah.
I say to people, like, why take up a new profession?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And a lot of people, that's what they've done to try to make money. And unfortunately, I think that they've expended so much energy and time and money, as in their own personal resource, that they're frustrated. A lot of people walk away from it, but again, I feel like people have been sold a bill of goods that's not true.
Yeah. Just in wrapping up, you actually talked so much about all the stuff that you do. Like I knew you were a coach. I knew about, ICN. I didn't know about the books, the publish, like I didn't know anything about that. So it leads me to the question of what's next? What else? Yeah,
And there's our friend that we've been talking about. There's
yes.
Ranchelle.
Michelle Van
And
Bryce.
that's her first book. What's next? Well, I can't tell you because we've got a new project in the hopper, and we're going to
You
be.
and I with our secrets.
I know. Well, I like to have it not perfect but polished that I can present it. We cross our T's and we dot our I's a lot. So I'm hoping that within the month that we'll be able to launch this next project. And all of the business streams that we have, they all come to support people getting their brilliance out to the world.
I love it.
So it's all under that umbrella. Yeah.
Well, never forget about me. Keep poking. Keep
You can't get away
just
from me
keep.
if you
I
try.
didn't actually think I could. So, anyways, I want to thank you so much because you messaged me literally last week and I was like, yeah, for sure. Let's do it. Let's jump on the cast.
And I'm your first.
You are, you
I'm
are,
your
you
first.
are.
I love that. I
You
love
are,
it.
you
Thank
are.
you.
So thank you for being with me on this very, very first video cast. I
My honor.
appreciate you and the passion that you have for helping people to step into their brilliance. And thank you for encouraging me to put my, glowing smile out here.
The world is excited to receive all of your brilliance.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you so much for joining myself and Christine McIver today as we chatted about many, many things, and hopefully you found value in today's episode. As always, if you have any questions or suggestions, or if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, please reach out to me at Sherisse at yourcollective.ca. That's SHERISSE at yourcollective.ca. And until next time, take care.